Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Sprint 5. Happy Wednesday. Hi, Bianca. Nice to see you. Hi, Vanessa. Feel free to come off your camera, put your camera on, I should say. It'd be great. We'll get started in a minute or so. Hi, Tom. Thanks for joining. These are very interactive sessions. Particularly today, we're going to be unpacking any challenges that we're still facing across the education sector with getting started when it comes to adoption of AI within your organizations. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Lee. Thanks for joining. Hi, Nicola. Curtin.
Hello.
How are we? So we'll wait for a few more to join and then we'll get started. So with the interactivity, it's really nice to obviously come on camera, I should say, if you are free to, but also coming off mic and sharing any thoughts. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, feel free to use the chat channel. And Vanessa's saying only settle for, no problem, Vanessa. We've got capacity today. It depends on how much ideation discussion we have today. We won't be breaking into smaller rooms. We'll be staying in the full plenary for the entire presentation today. Okay, well, I might kick off. For anyone that's net new, feel free to put a thumbs up if this is your first sprint as part of the Skills Accelerator. Do let me know if you're fresh and new to these discussions. My name is Siobhan O'Sullivan and I'm a consultant for the Future Skills Organisation, helping with the upskilling of the vet sector across Australia in AI. Thanks, Nicola, for letting us know. And thanks for joining as well. Today, I'd like to kick off by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the lands in which I'm calling from. I'm based in Sydney, and for me, that's the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. But I'm also mindful of everyone calling in from different locations around Australia, and we'd collectively like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. So thanks for that. What's happening today? So I'm going to give a brief overview, particularly for anyone that is unfamiliar or not yet comfortable enough with what the Skills Accelerator is doing, the importance of AI adoption, and we'll have a bit of a discussion there, so an opportunity to come off mic. We'll look at some of the challenges that we're identifying with that adoption. And then we'll throw to my colleague, Tiff McHugh, who will talk about the AI maturity and how we're assessing that and some of the earlier findings that we've had from our program on where people are finding themselves on that AI maturity curve. I'd like to thank Dylan Pereira, the Chief AI Officer for Bendigo Kangan Institute, who has chosen to join today as our special guest. And I'll be doing a bit of a practitioner spotlight with Dylan. If you have already visited the Future Skills Organisation website, where we have the Skills Accelerator resources, there is a really great playbook on how BKI kicked off their transformation of AI adoption across their organisation. And I say that with a bit of tongue in cheek because I actually wrote it after interviewing Dylan and staff there. But it's a good step-by-step guide as to what they followed. And we'll be unpacking a bit of that conversation with Dylan today. And then I'm going to go into an interactive session with everyone in the room on what is stopping us. So hoping everyone's come today to sort of share what they need to get going. We've developed a few critical resources for the sector, which has been driven by sector needs. So the vet and RTO operators have said to us, these are the things we need, and we have served them up. I suppose as a project team, we're keen to learn what else do we need to start moving towards AI upskilling and AI adoption. And then, of course, any Q&A or next steps at the end, and also a showcase of our future events that you might like to register for, or any of our past recordings on some AI in practice webinars we can talk to as well. Any questions, though, at this stage on the agenda? Any concerns? Does anyone think they've turned up to the wrong meeting? Because that would be critical, wouldn't it? And if you have, please stay with us because I'm sure you've got a good opinion on this. Okay, Future Skills Organisation, like what are we actually doing? We started in August last year at the National FSO Conference and we had 12 founding partners. We're now etching over 850 partners that we've engaged across Australia with activities similar to today with sprints. Those partners are comprised of vet providers, industry partners, and technology innovators.
I'll just put my headset on. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It is a national collaboration, so we are trying to connect vet providers, industry and tech partners across Australia to solve some of these challenges. FSO's role is simply an orchestrator, a facilitator. We don't train people, we don't select solutions for the vet sector. We're asking vet to tell us the challenges and to partner with people to help solve those challenges in essence. What we're doing today and what we have done, this is our 5th sprint. We do action learning sprints, so practical application. We ask real life challenges or cases, and we then partner with organizations that can help you solve that. We then run minimum viable product solutions and then evaluate that and post that case study or evaluation on our resources page. And it may be valuable now, Tanya, just if you have that link ready for our attendees today, just to give them the link to the resources page. If you'd like to have a look at that at the end of today or have a quick peruse whilst I'm talking, that would be great, because that's where you will find point 3 here, our tools, our frameworks, and our case studies. It's a central repository that you can go to at any point in time and review with a filtering process about what sort of area of help you're looking for. It's probably about 15 solutions on the page, so it's not exhaustive. We're not trying to go for volume, we're trying to go for solutions that do provide impact. So thank you if you're a recent new partner. We're kind of quietly hoping we'll get to 1,000 partners within the year, but we'll see how we go. AI adoption, and why does it matter? I mean, look, I'm happy for anyone to debunk whatever I've written on this slide here, and happy to have discussions around this. But we have accessible AI tools that are available across industries right now. We have the concept of what's called shadow IT happening. And if anyone is unfamiliar with that term, organizations tend to have policies on what can and can't be done with AI. And very early in the rollout of AI across different businesses and organizations, many people were using AI on their own phone, and that's called shadow IT. So the business says don't do it, and yet employees on their way to and from work are using their mobile phone to ask questions, particularly about work-related matters or using work documents that can put you at risk. So we have obviously evidently clear a lot of rollout of AI solutions. The other really interesting data point that I like is that tech businesses are measured on how quickly they take to get to 100 million customers. And, you know, brand names like Netflix took 10 years, Facebook took 4.5 years, TikTok took 9 months, and generative AI took only 60 days to get to 100 million customers. And last year they went from 200 million to 800 million people using generative AI. So look, it's really in our hand, as accessible. The question is, what are we doing with it? It's not whether we should use AI, it's how we're using it and how we're deploying it. And obviously our view within this project is inaction is costing organizations money. So early movers are helping to shape the sector's capability baseline. So the time is definitely now. Would anyone like to challenge me on that viewpoint? Any comments in the chat or coming off mic? Very happy to hear any thoughts in relation to this particular slide. So I'll give it a moment for anyone, and my team might tell me if there's any comments coming through because I'm sharing my screen.
No comments yet.
Okay, what about a thumbs up if this slide is perhaps on point? Are we thinking this is a reflection of today's, you know, industry? Yep. Yeah, Nicola. Oh,
Yeah,
thumbs up.
Yep,
perfect.
Sorry, I fully agree.
The wrong thing.
Yeah, no, all good. Okay, so there's no contention. I think really what we're looking to do is understand how we can best roll out AI and upskill the sector. So that brings me to this slide, which is the challenges we're seeing. So what we've been trying to deliver through this program is multiple different use cases where the context of using AI is part of the program of learning it. So our aspiration was to build curiosity, confidence and capability when it comes to AI, and not particularly just training in AI alone, because if you don't have access to an AI tool within your role, it becomes nebulous that that training is often within a couple of weeks forgotten. So what we're seeing across the sector is fragmented efforts. Organizations are working in isolation, which it tends to happen across businesses that are competing. But with something so critical, there are often shared learnings and shared ways of perhaps not making similar mistakes. And our progress is not building upon itself. The learnings are not shared, which was something we're trying to solve for ourselves with this project, and obviously bringing people like Dylan to the discussion today and other stakeholders that are doing great things across the sector. We're trying to share some of those insights, some of the ways lessons learned within their implementation, but also risks, so we can try where possible to remove the risk of other people making the same mistakes. There is limited resources. AI is expensive, it's moving fast, so we do need the best education or best opportunities to roll that out. And as a result, we're seeing uneven capability. And I think we've seen this particularly in education before AI. We don't want uneven capability when it comes to learning or learners access to things like even computers or hardware. And now we're overlaying a more challenging aspect with AI. So the system isn't moving together, and ideally that's what we're here to help collaborate and fix or improve. The maturity curve I might throw to my colleague Tiff. Do you want to jump off mic, Tiff?
Thanks, Siobhan. Lovely to see you all here, see some familiar names and faces. Hello, I'm Tiff. I'm the project lead. Hello, Bianca and Vanessa, specifically seeing your faces. Project lead working with the team here with the accelerator. So I wanted to share what we're hearing from our partner base regarding AI maturity. One of the benefits that we've got from having this big community of practice is the amount of listening that we're able to do and the research that we can conduct. Although we are ourselves just quite new as a program, in February this year, we issued a survey, which was very simple by design. It was about 5 to 7 questions. And for us, it was to establish a baseline of how our partners' maturity looks and how we might, our minds are thinking, how can we evolve that capability and that maturity over time? And so in February, I think we had somewhere around 550 partners at that point. So the survey went out to them and we had a pretty great respondent rate. I think it was about 17%. So what it told us was quite interesting. We started with a question. I should add, this was a confidence type of survey rather than a strict and formal assessment, although we are thinking about doing one of those later down the track. But the first question was to ask the individuals how they felt their confidence was regarding their AI skills. And maybe no surprise, people rated themselves quite highly. They thought they were quite great on a scale of 1 to 5. And then when we asked them where they believed their organisation sat on a scale of 1 to 5, they rated more often a 1 or a 2. So quite early on in maturity. We make some assumptions around that. Potentially we're reaching the change agents or the enthusiasts in each organisation who really want to move things forward, and maybe they're enjoying the benefits of AI, but they're not quite sure how to arm the organisation with what it needs to evolve the skill broadly. So we do definitely feel that the partner base is telling us that they need those early adoption, 0 to 1 tools. And we're fortunate here at FSO that we've had an early peek at the National Skills Report, which reflects that the nation itself is still quite, I suppose, immature, which might not surprise this group at all in terms of its skills maturity. So that gives birth to sessions like today, which is to interrogate what else do we need to help get organisations off the ground, because we have the willing partners and individuals who really want to make that change. So the questions also asked our respondents, what kind of tools or resources do you think would be most effective? And of course, also no surprise, it's skills and capability uplift as the #1 requirement. But quickly thereafter was a real need for practical tools and templates. So we see time and time again that generic or theoretic training around AI is just not having enough impact. People are wanting something that they can use and implement quickly, real kind of doing resources rather than just ingesting and reading resources. So we are tracking the partner base over time, and we're aiming to survey our respondents every 6 months to see. We aggregate the score and we come up with a maturity index, which is really for our purposes to see that everyone's evolving. But our last score settled at 41 out of 100 for the partner base, and we really hope that the next time that we connect with you about our survey results, we see that number shift upwards. So you can expect, if you are a partner of ours, that there will be a more comprehensive survey that will be issued in around June or July next year, and we'll be asking deeper questions around the program offering, what else you might need to move your skills beyond 0 to 1, even up towards, you know, your black belt ninja kind of skills and capability, both individually and for organisations. So the barriers to progress that we identified in our survey was, of course, uncertainty on where to start. And as Siobhan has highlighted, there's a lack of cohesive effort across organisations. Individuals are using the tools either privately or outwardly, but what was required is a formal process to implement through an organisation. There was limited internal capability and very much variable capability. Some are very much early starters, still getting their digital skills organised, and then of course we've got the enthusiasts. There are governance and risk concerns, and also queries around where might we get some frameworks or tools and templates to support the oversight of our use of AI beyond that which an IT team could provide. And no clear path forward. So, you know, just an explicit request. Is there a roadmap that we can look at? Who's done it before us? What were the steps to get things up and moving? And the playbook from BKI is a really good example of a simple, easy to digest recipe of here's the sequence of events that will get you moving and get everyone on the same page. So whilst it was a quick survey, it did validate some of our assumptions that we were seeing and hearing through our sprint workshops. And we hope to have far more detail to provide for you a bit further down the track. Siobhan,
Thanks.
I think that's me done.
Yeah, thanks, Tiff. So some of those key barriers to progress that Tiff has walked through and that we saw coming through in our survey, hopefully maybe resonate with you on the call today. So let's see whether that is correct. And thanks, Tiff, for raising the black belt ninja status. As a team, we've been talking internally, and I think I've sort of put a lens on it myself. My background in sport has been martial arts, so I have likened the analogy within our team to, you know, who's feeling like they're a white belt when it comes to adopting AI within your organization, or maybe a yellow belt if you've done martial arts. So it's really that early stage of adoption is what we're trying to frame here. And in that stage where you're learning something new, often being unfamiliar or uncertain about what to do or how to do it is actually really normal. So it's getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and it's where every expert begins. So I suppose what I'm trying to point out here is that you don't need to have all the answers. That's what we're trying to help you navigate or give you some options of how to start. Always starting with curiosity, and it's not about perfection because that's the enemy of good. And the sector learns faster when we learn together. And I think right now I'd like to throw the mic open to Dylan, as I've listed there, the Chief AI Officer for Bendigo Kangan Institute, who has actually achieved a lot in their organisation. And start with you, Dylan. But first off, thanks for joining the Sprint call. I appreciate you taking up your time. If you're happy to come off mic, maybe we could start with, where did BKI begin? When you, or the organisation in partnership with you, agreed that this is something you wanted to do, where did you start?
Thank you, Siobhan. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm glad to be on the call. It's actually my first meeting of this nature. So I'm really happy to be here and contributing towards this conversation. Siobhan, so going back to your question about where we started, I mean, the program for BKI is literally 12 months old at this point in time. After I joined BKI around January last year, by the time we got the AI strategy up and running, it was April 2025. So we are a smack bang 12 months into the program. And as you pointed out, we have achieved a lot. The very start of it, I mean, when I think back to it, it comes down to we did two very specific things. I think that was really instrumental in setting up the program for success. And I'll highlight them, and then we can get into some of the other bits and pieces as we get into the conversation. The first thing was, and this is really critical for any organization, one of the foundational thoughts when I came into the business back in January last year was while the commitment for AI was there, everyone within the organization was thinking of AI as a technology project.
Yes.
And they woke up every morning thinking about bringing it to life as a tech project. And that's certainly not the case to get the sustainable progress that we need. Because instead, the mindset needs to be that this is a brand new strategic capability that needs to be designed from scratch, built from scratch, embedded, and then scaled. That mindset shift is very, very important because if you look at artificial intelligence just as a project, or specifically a tech project, you're probably thinking of jumping straight at the use cases as a starting point and thinking about what problems can be solved using AI as a technology, and then you think about funding, you think about running a project or a POC for a certain amount of time, and then essentially you move on to the next thing. Instead, if you start to think about it as a strategic capability, then you're thinking about a sustainable model where a number of different components are put together very purposefully to create an ecosystem for artificial intelligence to initially survive and then thrive. So in the case of BKI, that thought process was very important. What that meant was we started, instead of talking about technology or use cases, starting point was talking about AI literacy, governance, operating model that's required for artificial intelligence, and then data and tech infrastructure.
So it was a combined four pillars.
Absolutely. And the most important thing there is you need the four pillars running in parallel. They're interlinked. And them running in parallel is the key to creating a sustainable ecosystem.
Awesome.
So that was the first thing, Siobhan, starting with that mindset shift, thinking about AI as a strategic capability, a new strategic capability, rather than a tech project.
Love that. I love that. Let's break it down into real terms for those that have done small amounts of AI adoption within their organization. What does adoption look like in practice?
I mean, for me, it comes down to, again, those four enablers. So adoption is not just about the technology or the use cases. It really is about bringing those four enablers that we talked about just before to life. So when it comes to AI literacy, this is really about getting the tools in the hands of our people, because we need them to experience it, trust it, learn to grow with it, make mistakes with it. All those things are really, really important. And to bring that to life, you need an AI literacy program or some sort of a program that helps people to get better at AI. And then you probably want to measure your progress through some sort of a literacy index or a maturity index. But most importantly, you have to put the tools in the hands of your people. So that's one way of looking at adoption. Then when it comes, sure.
I was just going to say the idea of a defensive posture for many of your staff. I mean, we're hearing some pockets of people saying, "Oh, I don't, I'm scared, or I'm nervous." I mean, I gather that happened at BKI. What did that look like, and how did you guys navigate that?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? So early on, I made a very specific decision that I wasn't going to force people to use AI. Instead, one of the first things we did was we got the tools in the hands of the people who wanted to have those tools in their hands. So essentially, the early adopters. One of the first steps we took, we purchased 500 or so Microsoft Copilot licenses, the paid licenses, and what most organizations would have done is to pick and choose which functions or business units they would want to have the licenses based on value. But I chose not to do that. Instead, I opened up an expression of interest process for the whole business, all 1,600 staff, and said, if you believe in AI and if you want to learn more about it, express your interest and you can have a license.
Awesome.
So that action alone created a lot of hype and excitement in the business. People who were genuinely keen on learning more about AI or using AI came forward. And then they walked away with a license, a premium license, paid license for themselves, and then they started to use it. And the ripple effect that was when the right people who are keen on AI start to use the licenses and get value out of it, then they start to talk about it with their friends. And then it became a snowball effect where more and more people wanted a license for the right reasons rather than being told they need to learn about artificial intelligence.
Love that. Love that. When you say there was 4 pillars, and help me understand, Dylan, did BKI recruit you and then you helped design the program, or did they have a view of a program and you were the catalyst for making that happen?
No, it's we didn't have a program as such before I came on board. Siobhan, the way, I mean, we had a very passionate, we always had a passionate group of people who believed in AI, especially the Sally Curtin, our previous CEO, and the board chair Sharon Barrow. But again, the mistake that they were making before I came on board was that they were looking to get AI going by treating it as a technology project. So they were jumping straight at the use cases, and that wasn't sustainable because the ecosystem wasn't set up for sustained success.
Awesome. What worked in the last 12 months? You're coming up to your 12-month anniversary of your first amount of effort. What has worked, and equally, what also didn't work?
Sure. So what worked is that the combination of those 4 enablers that I talked about has come together really, really well to create that ecosystem so AI can and can again survive and thrive. And thriving in the context of BKI really means we're now in a position where we can almost build any use case that we want to take on because the fundamentals and the foundations are there. The only thing that's constraining or stopping us is the amount of funding available. So that's a very different position to be in. If you had $10 million to spend right now, we would be doing amazing things. Instead, obviously, we're constrained by how much money we have available within the TAFE sector.
I have to say, Dylan, if I had $10 million, I'd be doing really interesting things too. Wouldn't be doing anything. I'm joking. Off you go.
Sure. So I think in terms of what's working well is that the system that we built is allowing us to generate sustainable and progressive outcomes. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah.
Another thing that's working really well is that the engagement of the people and the buy-in of the people, I think we'll be seeing that uptick on a regular basis because again they can see the value, they can see number of use cases being deployed, and by end of last year, again 8 months into the program before we went to Christmas, as we went into Christmas, we had more than 25 different AI use cases in production, that's in real use across the business. So that those things are only possible if you have the foundation set up strongly. So that's another thing that's working well. A lot of use cases are coming through and getting used by our people. And that, again, that leads to enhanced trust and confidence almost on a daily basis. Another thing that's going well, I think, is the leadership support. We always had that, very supportive board, very supportive CEO, myself as a part of the executive, that's really who believes in this as a potential game changer for the business. And in many ways, I think that leadership support is very important and as well, and that's potentially something unique in the context of other organizations where a lot of organizations try to push this up the line as a massive change or a transformation. But as we all know, large transformations never trickle up. They always need to trickle down from the board and the CEO and the executive team down. So that's another thing that's going really well at BKI.
I love that. That's such a good such a good point. One of the part of that question, Dylan, was that's excellent to hear all the things that worked really well. What were some of the lessons learned? What things perhaps didn't land as expected?
Sure. I mean, when I think about what didn't go to plan, I mean, there's probably smaller things in the context, Siobhan, because a lot of things have gone well exactly as we planned. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in the position that we're in. But when I think about the small things that I might have changed along the way, I would have probably introduced a way of tracking adoption earlier. So that took us probably 6-8 months to come up with a system that helps us to assess exactly how we're going in a holistic sense. So that's probably one thing I would have changed.
Yeah.
Another thing, I mean, I would have loved to invest more in our data or data posture early on, but again, that was constrained by how much cash we had to spend on it. But that didn't really slow us down because we managed to find creative ways to pick very specific use cases that still created value.
Okay.
So while that was a challenge, there's still enough resourceful ways for any organization to break through those barriers and keep going.
Awesome. I'm going to ask 2 more questions, and then I understand we're getting some questions coming through on the chat channel, which is excellent. So we'll open it up to the stakeholders on the call. What's something that surprised you in the last 12 months?
I think the most pleasant surprise that I've had is the commitment of our people. They understand that this is a massive transformational change that we're facing, and honestly, the change curve, it always plays out in a certain way, in the predefined way, and that is no different to big AI. But how quickly people are moving through the change curve from the concerns and worries to actually using the technology and flowing through to the other side in terms of becoming real promoters of the change. I think the speed of that transition has surprised me in a good way.
That's awesome.
And
advice. Oh yeah, keep going.
And I was going to add one more thing. I mean, on the flip side, a realization that I probably hadn't thought enough about when I first came on board, because my background is all corporate, large corporates before I came into the TAFE sector. I probably underestimated the I guess the experience or the low experience sitting within our ICT functions in the TAFE sector. I think that was a realization that I had later that, I mean, the IT functions or ICT functions in the TAFE businesses are just there to keep the lights on for most part, and brand new technologies like AI is not something they've been trained on. There's not something that they've thought about. So getting that group across the curve as quickly as possible, the change curve as quickly as possible, was a really important thing. But I think I underestimated the amount of work that actually required. And in hindsight, that was not a misstep, but something that I hadn't planned for.
Yeah, no, that resonates, Dylan, with some of the other feedback we've heard across other organizations. And last one for me, what would be your advice for others that are starting off, perhaps maybe you themselves at your stage a year ago?
For sure. I think the number one piece of advice that I would give someone is, if you're struggling to get traction, that there's probably an issue with leadership buy-in in your organization. So I think what that means is it requires a conversation at the highest level of the business, from the board down to the CEO and the executive team, about how much support, real support, conviction, buy-in there is towards artificial intelligence. And having that conversation, getting that conversation out the way is super critical, because otherwise you'll be continuously coming back to fix that gap. Getting budget approved will be difficult. Getting traction and support will be difficult, considering AI is a leadership change and a people change more than a tech change. Unless the senior leaders are fully on board, it's a very difficult journey to navigate through. So my number one advice is, make sure that your board chair, the board, CEO, and the executive team's on board. If not, have that conversation first and get that sorted, because without that, the traction and the progress will be slow and painful.
I think that resonates completely, that comment, and I'll throw to some questions in a moment which have already been added, and I'll speak to them. The idea that it is a strategic change, it's not an implementation of a tech product. So without leadership involvement or support for that strategy, then like any strategic change, it doesn't sustain or get cut through. Thank you, Dylan. That's great. Bianca has asked a question. Did the people given the tools also get given time to play with the tool, to explore? Maybe you could talk to that.
Of course, Bianca, thank you for the question. I mean, the Copilot tool, as you know, as all of you know, you just use it in your day-to-day work, and that was very much the intention. So our expectation was you use it as much as possible whenever you possibly could. So that was an open invitation to do that. But we shouldn't assume just because you give a tool to someone, they know how to use it. So handing out the tool needs to be coupled with a really good enterprise-wide AI literacy or education program. And we certainly did that, and we invested a lot of time and effort. In our case, that training program meant every single person in our organization essentially sat in one of 5 learning tracks for a whole year, all the way from the CEO down. And they received fortnightly training for most part, or monthly training, depending on which cohort they were in. So hand out the tool, very important, get the tool in the hands of your people, but most importantly, support them with everything you've got in the first year to make sure you build trust and confidence.
Excellent. Bianca, all good with that? Any follow-up questions? No? All good. Thanks. Thumbs up. So as a board, are the board using it to make decisions as well, from Vanessa McCarthy?
Sure. So the usage in the board is different. I certainly didn't push hard to and say and didn't mandate the board saying you must use AI. That wasn't a conversation I think that was going to play out really well. But the board is incredibly supportive. Every single board member we have at BKI, they're very progressive, all the way from Sharon Burrow, who's the board chair, down to the entire board. They are highly progressive and supportive of the journey that we are on. So they use AI in their own ways, in different ways. All of them have access to the Copilot tool that we've got, but some of them prefer different products. But in terms of usage, the usage vary, but every single one of them use AI in some shape or form, that's for sure.
Excellent. I think I sort of touched on it a little bit, Dylan, with my question, but Bianca's also asked a follow-up question. How did you manage those who might be fearful that AI will replace them if they hand over their processes or thinking, IP, etc., to the transformation?
Sure. So to be honest, it's not a conversation that we've faced into proactively. And we haven't gone out there and had that conversation with the business as such. But what we've tried to do I guess it's 2 things. The first thing is, as we talked about before, by getting the tool in the hands of the early adopters, they became the change force within our organization. So they would go and then speak to their colleagues who might be slightly hesitant about the value of the tool, how it's helping them. That was really, really important. So that was really useful in getting some of the people who were sitting on the fence to the right side of the fence. That worked really nicely. And then the second thing is, I think with more tools being, more solutions and more products being launched almost on a monthly basis now, people are starting to realize that there's more value to be had in their roles, as opposed to being worried about potentially losing their job to AI. I mean, the headlines are everywhere, but I think the general conversation we're having with people is, if you use artificial intelligence to enhance your impact and elevate your potential, then obviously you have a reduced chance of your job being taken over by AI or someone else who's using AI. So I think that's the conversation we're driving as a narrative in our business. Yeah. And that seems to be working quite well at this point.
Bianca, you have your hand up. Do you want to add some more context?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify, because it sounds like the answer to my first question as well. It makes me think that you guys have been working predominantly with LLMs. Have you integrated anything else other than an LLM as an AI integration? Because LLMs are just one of the multiple AI systems that we can be working with. Have you been in a situation where you've done workflows and done process stuff where it's, literally eliminated an entire day's work?
Sure, Bianca, that's a great question. So we have a mixture of AI products that we have within our business. So, I mean, I talk about this as in terms of essentially 5 different levels of AI is in operation in our business, all the way from general purpose tools like Copilot, which is where the LLMs come in. Then we've got pre-built tools in our existing systems, like the pre-built agents in Copilot being turned on as soon as they're available. So that gets used by our people. And then we have custom-built AI solutions. So this is where we're picking up very specific use cases, and it might be, I mean, there's a variety of use cases, more than 20, 30 at this point, all the way from using voice AI agents to call our apprentices to help them enroll, to using AI agents to help our frontline team members to source all the information they need into one single interface. We use document intelligence in our VerisS business, where we use AI to retrieve all the key pieces of information from actual documents that the students or migrants are submitting in the VerisS business, and cross-checking that against the application. So there's a variety of different use cases where we're using AI, not just as a generative AI capability or from LLM perspective, but we use it in different ways to solve very specific use cases. So to answer your question, it's a variety of different things. The level that we're building towards is agentic AI systems, where multiple agents are used in a workflow to redesign workflows from end to end. And one of the things we're looking at is what would that look like if we redesign entire business functions from scratch around artificial intelligence. So think about, let's say, I'm just making this up, so keep that in mind. Think of human resources or finance, for example. If we were building a business from scratch, and if we had artificial intelligence as a center stone, how would we redesign those functions around AI rather than trying to plug AI into the existing processes and systems?
Love that. Thank you, Dylan. A few more questions here. What was used to identify what areas of the organization would be a good place to start? Was it a risk-based approach or a business growth approach?
Bit of both is a simple answer. I think this sort of links back to that earlier question about how to keep your people feeling not threatened as much as possible as well. So again, one of the errors in judgment that I see with some of the organizations is they go after really big use cases that have genuine impact potentially on their people. So that's the bad place to start, from my opinion, because straight away you're getting your workforce offside. So instead, we were very careful about picking use cases that demonstrate genuine value to the humans in the staff, in the roster, in the staff base, and those things work really well. And there's many use cases of that nature. So yes, we identify use cases based on value to the business, the strategic fit, feasibility, risk, mitigations, etc. But also we put a qualitative lens on it, and we ask ourselves, what can we get out the door and not take years to build? Because seeing these products and solutions out there being used by people is very important, because that really builds trust and confidence, and that's really critical in the early phases of the journey.
Creates a bit of a flywheel, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Thank you. Michelle Straight has actually asked, please speak to, if you don't mind, Dylan, to the governance frameworks and guardrails developed to support the BKI rollout and the AI program.
Of course. So we have a integrated governance framework. So again, if you go to the playbook that Siobhan mentioned earlier, you'll be able to see a lot of information on this. So it's a multi-level, multi-layered governance framework. Starting point was getting the board to approve a brand new risk appetite for AI. So that happened at the very early days. That's important because that not only the board buys into it as a collective group, when you have that risk appetite approved, it also sets very clear boundaries around where we can play. So that's one of the first things. Then we've introduced something called the Safe AI framework. So this is something that all of our people in the business use when they're thinking about using an AI tool or a new AI tool, especially. They ask the Safe AI process guides them to ask a few different questions, 6 different questions actually, around various things like Are you using sensitive data? Are you building something and integrating it into the workflows without approval, et cetera, et cetera? So few different, very specific questions that allows the individual to assess the risk of using AI. And again, that's a very important self-guided process that we've introduced within BKI to get the people to trust themselves to make more of the right decisions more often. And that's working really well as well. But we know that alone is not enough. Therefore, we have technology-driven monitoring running in the background just to make sure people are doing the right thing. Because I remember the conversation at the start of this call where we talked about shadow IT or shadow AI rather. So BKI would be one of the few organizations where we haven't banned a single AI tool. So every single AI tool is available for people to use. But in doing so, what we've done is we've given every single person a safe platform, which is Copilot. So we've told people as a part of their training, and every single person in the organization completes a responsible AI training module every year. And within that, we let people know for anything work related, anything that requires sensitive information, use Copilot because your data is protected. But if there's other tools that you want to use, and if you're using it based on the Safe AI framework guidelines, then go for it. But at the same time, we're telling them you need to make the right decisions, and we're holding you accountable for it.
Yeah, great.
So trust works both ways. So you've got to be responsible. Then if you're responsible, then you will be trusted.
Excellent. Next question, Sandra Perry has asked, given the fast adoption of AI in the workplace, do you know of any organizations or businesses that have completed an environmental impact study on AI before the implementation?
So it's a very good question. And I think this links back to one of the things that we probably could have done better, and this is one of them. So this wasn't, Sandra, it's a very good point. We haven't done a sustainability assessment on AI yet either. But as a starting point, we've incorporated our AI work into our broader enterprise-wide sustainability, targets and objectives. But we haven't completed one at BKI. And to be honest, I don't know of another institution who have done that, at least not at the start of their journey either.
Thank you. Vanessa McCarthy, are you seeing any tools tested and played with going to be implemented systemically?
Ask me the question again, Siobhan.
Or maybe Vanessa, I think what Vanessa's asking, if I can understand the question correctly, is with the 20 odd that you said are being played with agentic solutions, are they going to be implemented systemically across the business if they're proven to be valuable? Is probably what I think is.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. So first of all, the 20 odd, or nearly more than 30 now, they're already in production. So they're very specific use case driven. So majority of them aren't going to be ever scaled across the business because that's not what the use case is. There's an important point there as well. So the reason why I guess we managed to get so many different use cases out, addressing so many different real business problems, is because we've chosen to look at business problems or use cases that are quite narrow. And that makes it easier to tackle very specific problems that we have in the business. It might be in one team, or it could be in one function, or it could be enterprise-wide, but the majority are fitting into a single team or a single function, and it solves a very specific problem that we have in the business, and we use AI as a solution to that. So if we started off thinking that a certain use case was the enterprise-wide use case, then that certainly it's been rolled out that way. But if we started off thinking a certain use case was geared towards a single team or a function, then it's been rolled out that way. So I can tell you there's not a single use case that we started as a pilot that we've scrapped. Every single one of them that we started has moved from the pilot phase into production.
Awesome. Dylan, another question. Are people sharing their examples, wins, learnings in their regular catch-ups? Because peer-to-peer learning is very powerful.
Absolutely. And to bring this to life, Siobhan, we have a group called our AI Champions. So these are the early adopters in our business. There's 200 of them running around in BKI amongst the 1,600 staff that we've got, and they play a tremendous role in bringing those stories to life, sharing it within their teams, their functions, and when you multiply that same effect across 200 people, it's quite powerful.
Excellent. I'm hopefully going to pronounce this stakeholder's name correctly, Catherine Falau, maybe. So just a comment first off, Dylan, that she supports your perspective in their organisation. The ICT department was also the one that didn't drive AI adoption. It was the corporate team. But follow-up question, do you have any key agent developers creating targeted agents to share across the business?
Yeah, it's a great question, Catherine. So we do this in a couple of different ways. So we've got a small team of developers who are actual developers or professionals who do this as their day job. So that's just one part. But more importantly, we also got this. We've also commenced this staff agent builder training program last year. So it's the largest of its kind in the country, as far as I know. We've got more than 100 of our staff now trained up to build AI agents themselves. And we're about to kickstart this year's program. We've got another 40 people enrolled from what I've heard just before earlier today. So all of a sudden, we're looking at a situation where within a couple of months, we'll have close to 150 people trained up to build agents. These are not ICT folk. These are average, normal, might be teachers, might be finance professionals, might be marketers, might be student support staff who have a genuine passion for building agents, and we're training them up to build them so they can create agents for themselves and use within their workflows.
Excellent. Thanks, Dylan. That's exciting. I think people might be applying for jobs at BKI. Would you see a benefit to create a user case application template to assist others? Vanessa, you might want to come off mic just to clarify that question.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much for an amazing session, Dylan. There's so much information. I just want to sit and talk to you for hours. But I wanted to ask, you referred before to actual use cases and, you know, applying them. Did you actually use an application process? And do you think that's something that could be useful for other organizations? Obviously, they're going to be in different levels, but so that they know what they're asking for or know how to ask for it to be successful.
Sure. It was Vanessa, wasn't it? I think it was Vanessa.
Yes, Vanessa,
Thank you, Vanessa. Great question. So we did this in a very specific way, Vanessa. I tried to make life as simple as possible for people, especially at the start of a journey. So I hate the idea of having a huge form that they need to fill out with a whole lot of information that they probably haven't got. So I try to avoid situations like that. So what we did in our case is early on, we created this very simple online form. People could go into it and it was open for the entire staff base. And we wanted them to put in their ideas about the use cases. So essentially, they were telling us the business problems that they wanted to solve using artificial intelligence, at least from their perspective. So what that did was it created a single funnel or a single platform for everyone in the organization to feed their thoughts and ideas into. And then that became a single funnel way of information that we would sift through afterwards and figure out how many of those ideas are of real value. And that's how we started. So that's an ongoing platform that we've set up in the business. Anytime someone's got some sort of idea, they just put it through the same platform. It comes through to the little AI accelerator team that we have at BKI. We assess it, and then we go back to them. We have a conversation. It's always good to have a conversation and get more information rather than giving them a big form that they need to fill out with a whole lot of technical jargon, which most people can't fill out anyway. So I'd rather not scare people. I'd rather engage them and use their excitement and the energy to have another second conversation and really start to build something out as a collective. I think that always seems to work quite well.
Awesome. And the last question before we move on is Bianca, and feel free to answer as much or as little of this, Dylan, as you feel comfortable. But what has been the initial financial gains for BKI from the last 12 months worth of investment in this program?
Yeah, it's a great question. So again, one of the early things that I did with the BKI business from the board down is to get them thinking about the fact that the gains from AI is not going to be just commercial. That's really, really important, because if someone's spending $1 wanting to get $2 back, that's not the change that we're looking for here, because with any strategic capability like AI, there's an initial build phase. You've got to invest at the start to get to reap the rewards down the line. I sort of describe this as digging for gold. You have to invest in digging in digging the gold mine first. That requires investment, time, effort, and then only after that you actually get to the gold. It's no different when it comes to AI. So so I got them thinking about the fact that yes, commercial ROI is one thing, but there's other things we need to be worried about, like cultural ROI or relevance ROI. We want our people to feel like they're part of a progressive organization. We want to get the tools in the hands of the people, for the simple reason, from my perspective. I mean, when was the last time someone asked what the ROI is on Microsoft Excel? I can't remember the last time anyone asked that question, right? Or what the return was on Microsoft Word or PowerPoint. We never asked that question, but we're asking what the return is from on a Copilot license because it's new, right? So from my perspective, the Copilots, it doesn't matter if it's Microsoft or ChatGPT, they are the Microsoft Word and Excel of 2026. They are basic standard tools that every single person in every single organization need to have access to. So I've sort of shifted the mindset within our business to think about return from AI investment in terms of those different categories: commercial, cultural, and relevance. That said, every single use case that we've deployed so far comes with a set of performance standards. And they can range depending on what the use case is. It'll have things like we want to, I'll give you one example. So I said before, we use our voice agents to ring our apprentices between 5 and 7 and help them with their enrollment processes. So again, if you're keen to listen to that voice agent, if you find me on LinkedIn, you'll be able to find a recording of that. So feel free to listen to that. So in that use case, the performance metrics that we put in place, which is the same with every other use case, we said we want to reduce the first call contact rate for these apprentices from 1 or 2%, because it's so hard to get hold of them during daytime, to more than 30% as a case of using the agent. That's performing at about 50%, just to give you a comparison point. We also said we want to increase the satisfaction of that cohort, the apprentice cohort, to move it from X to Y. We also said we want to reduce the time to enroll for that cohort from 30 plus days to less than 25 days. That's currently sitting at about 18 for that cohort, simply because we're getting hold of them much faster and much earlier. So the point I'm making is every single use case should have some value metrics attached to it, very measurable, tangible metrics. And then once you start to execute, you can report against them. So it's not always going to be a commercial number that you can point towards, because even with things like Copilot being used across the business, the gains we make will be consumed by the noise in the broader system. It'll get we won't be able to point towards something in the P&L because it simply doesn't flow through. So hopefully that response helps. My guidance is think about return from AI in a variety of different ways: commercial, cultural, and relevance. And also, very importantly, set very specific success measures at use case level and report against them. That should make everyone feel comfortable and confident that you're achieving your objectives.
Awesome. I'm going to give you a round of applause on that one, Dylan. Thank you. We'll bring the question time to a close. And thanks, Jason Taylor, as well, from Queensland TAFE. He also shared that in their experience, Dylan, rolling it out in Queensland, that they had 48 expressions of interest, and then the next wave was 400, and those 48 then became the mentors, which I think is a really nice way of doing it as well. So well done, Queensland TAFE. Awesome. I'm just go back to my screen. Thank you so much. I think, definitely a good example of black belt ninja sort of level at BKI. So thanks, Dylan, for sharing some of that lived experience. When we look about practical solutions that the Skills Accelerator has already brought together, we talked about the BKI playbook. We also have an AI adoption starter kit, and we have an assessment integrity tool that you could use for checking whether a student has used AI. So they're available tools on the website link that my colleague Tanya has added. And our approach has been start small with use cases. Of course, ideally, it is an organizational-led, executive-led, board-led transformation that BKI has done. But if you're looking to try small things and build capability in certain sectors first, then we have some things that you could download which you might find beneficial. And of course, the importance of learning within the context of your role has been mentioned numerous times in these sort of transformations. What I want to do now, we don't have 45 minutes, but I was happy to leave the conversation with Dylan go for a bit longer, is what's the existing barriers in the room today, on the call today? What are some of the barriers that you see that prevent you from taking that first step? And Dylan's going to kindly stay on the call, and we can also engage him on some of these challenges as you raise them. Some of the ideas that come to mind is, do we have the capability? A question, of course, was already asked about, can you talk to the governance within the BKI transformation? The systems, access to the tools, the time, or leadership. But I would really now invite you to come off mic if you can, or if you feel more comfortable just in the chat channel, to start the discussion around what is the key barrier. As I mentioned, my aspiration as part of this project is really to make sure that whatever you need, aside from a full executive and board, I can't manage that for you, but if it's tools or templates or anything that we think we can bring to the market, then we will try and build that for you or work with providers that can. So for anyone that's at an earlier stage in your transformation, love to hear from you in the chat channel or off mic. I'll open it up now. Is there anyone in the room that's struggling to get started? And if so, maybe a reason why? Or do I infuse or infer from that everyone's fine? James, thank you.
Hi, this is James from TAFE Queensland. How are you going?
Good, good. Thanks for coming off mic.
Good.
What's happening with you guys?
No problem. I would say one of the largest barriers we have at the moment, and we did a large survey of our paid Copilot users in late November last year, and what we found from that survey was having the time to learn was a big barrier. We had a lot of people saying they've realized the capability of, we use M365 Copilot internally. So they realize some of the benefits, they can see some of that, but having the a limitation with time and the workload that they have in their everyday is restricting their amount of time to develop their professional skills. So they know they could save time, but they don't, ironically, have the time to learn how to do that. That was one of the largest barriers we found within that survey. But the other I would also say is we have, I would say, roughly 15 to 20% of staff that have access to the paid Copilot license. But we still have a remaining 80 to 85% of staff who have access to Copilot Chat, which provides AI functionality. It's an AI chat tool, but it has more limited abilities compared to the paid version of Copilot. So I think what we're seeing internally is it's a bit of a disparity between what those people with the paid Copilot license are able to do versus those who just have access to Copilot Chat.
Absolutely. Dylan, obviously time is critical in any organization. You've got your own job to do, plus you're trying to learn new tools. How did BKI tackle that? What did you guys do?
Yeah, James is a great point. I agree with the time crunch when it comes to learning AI, I guess. So, I mean, we would try to make it as easy as possible by creating a variety of different options for people to attend in their own times to learn about things. And again, most people if they have the tool, they learn on the go by using it on their own, and then we supported that with a variety of different training courses that they can pick and choose that are running at different time slots. So that generally worked okay. I think, again, it comes down to the fact that if someone really wants to learn something, then they'll find the time. So I don't have a silver bullet on that, apart from saying if you create enough avenues for people to learn, and if you make it as simple as possible, and if you get the tool in the hands of the people, then vast majority will come along for the ride because they realize the value and they see the value.
Thanks,
Thank
James.
you.
James, the other one for me is sometimes with projects like this or strategy rollouts, there is a benefits realization view, like what we're doing this to get something or lift employee up, competency or whatever it is. Who in TAFE Queensland or in your experience is kind of ultimately trying to land the benefits of this rollout?
Well, we have an AI task force and an AI technical advisory group internally that works on that, but it is still something that people are doing in addition to their existing roles. They are not dedicated roles, and that might be another one of the barriers or the challenges here is that unless you have dedicated staff working on this, then it can sometimes slip in terms of importance to your existing role, or you're doing it as a bit of a, like you're an early adopter or you're passionate about the space. And so, yeah, that can be difficult as well.
Can I ask around the room, and particularly Dylan as well? Dylan, you have your hand up. I'll let you join in first. I gather it's off James's comment.
It was. I forgot to mention one important thing, especially for our teacher cohort. We created an arrangement where if they attend a session to learn about AI, and the time they spend on that was going to be credited towards their professional development point. So that was always well received. So that could be something that other organizations consider as well.
That partly goes maybe to my question, the concept around KPIs. I mean, there's an adage in human resources, you get what you reward. Is there a way across organizations, or has anyone seen good reward structures in place to encourage staff to develop these skills? No.
There's something we need to trial, Siobhan.
Yeah, maybe. I was just curious because it's often you put sort of, I mean, I think linking them to CPD. I see James's comment here, challenge then is integrating it into CCPs, the education capability plan. Oh no, that's your colleague, James, you're talking to.
Yeah, I'm happy to elaborate. One of our challenges is that we're rolling out sessions around Copilot. We're focusing on, things like productivity, but our educator capability teams, if they want to include that in an educator capability professional learning, our educators have to acquire a certain amount of continuing currency points. And so it's sort of a misalignment of training, where if we do basic skills that don't involve educational delivery, they're not eligible for those currency points. So we either target all of our staff with generic training, or we target our educator staff with educational oriented training that's eligible for those currency points. So we try to do both, but it can really stretch out resources.
Yeah, okay, thanks for sharing that, James. Any other challenges across the organizations that are on the call today? So we've heard about time, finding the right time. Tammy, your hand's up.
I think one of the challenges is people are starting to learn about it. They know it's out there. They're not quite sure how to use it. And people have these wonderful ideas. And like James has implemented a wonderful program and helped us in a lot of ways. But I still see people not quite sure what they can do with it. They know it can help. They know it will help. They know it will save time. But they don't know where to put that effort into developing it. So they might be trying to develop stuff that's really not going to help that much and missing the development that's going to be a real game changer.
So I could play that back to you, Tammy. If there was a sort of the top 5 roles in education, and these are the top 5 prompts to give you productivity improvements using Copilot, would that be kind of a bit more clarity of, oh, there are at least 5 prompts or things I should be doing with Copilot? Would that be something helpful?
I don't think so, because we already have, like, we're sending newsletters around with prompts and all that sort of stuff. So people are using prompts and people are getting better with their prompts. I think I'm looking at it in a more in depth where we're using that surface stuff.
Mm.
You know, give me an Excel formula, or, you know, I'm using this formula, it's not working, why? Or, you know, is there a better one? Could I do it a better way? Like, I think those prompts are well learnt, but then when we start looking at agents and things like that, I think we're still missing a step there. I think there's still some really big confusion about what can and can't be done, and
Okay.
what, because again, exactly what James said, it's the time. None of us have the time just to get in there and play, to learn, which is how you learn the best in something new. So trying to decide what's really valuable to spend that time on and what's not, you know, what is AI actually capable of, and get around all the rhetoric and all the, oh, it'll do this or it won't do that or it whatever. What is it actually capable of?
Yeah, okay. It's almost, what I'm hearing you say is almost like some sort of not white belt level. It's more like I know a bit about it. I'm using the tool. I've got some prompts, but how do I kind of move this up to sort of maybe even agentic kind of, it's like green belt level. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. That's good. Good prompter for me. Can I ask the room, as well as my original question, how, I mean, the thesis behind this work and working closely with the education departments and streams, VET, RTO around the country, is that you're responsible, organisations, individuals are responsible for developing our next wave of graduates in industry. And the idea that as educators are more comfortable, more capable, that's trickling down into the learning environments and obviously our learners. What barriers exist currently to helping learners get better at understanding AI, how they can be industry ready? What are our thoughts around the room on that? Tammy.
How do we include it in assessment?
Okay.
So TAFE Queensland has a policy, and James and the guys and all that have been really good in developing that, but there is still this confusion about what copyright is. Should we be allowing our students to use AI to answer those assessment questions, because that's cheating, right? Or should we accept the fact that coming into industry, this is what it's going to be? They're still learning. People are still, you know, searching that stuff out.
Okay, I might ask Dylan. Dylan, how have, I mean, I know different jurisdictions too, so I don't know whether state-based requirements or policies play out here, which I'm sure they do. But Dylan, cognizant of Queensland TAFE being in a different area to you, what have you done at BKI in relation to that?
Yeah, Siobhan, thank you. And Tammy, it's a great point. So irrespective of the fact that they're different states, the position hasn't really changed. It's very, very similar in Victoria, Siobhan. It's a live conversation, this one, around how we want to position artificial intelligence in education delivery, as well as from a learner's perspective. And it's not a scenario that we've solved at this point in time. We're going through the same conversations that Queensland is going through. I'm sure it's the same nationally. I think this will take a bit of time before we settle. But I think the requirement is what Tammy called out already. I think it's literally impossible for us to say that people, students, shouldn't use AI, and we need to almost assume that AI is going to be used. And what that means is we need to change the way we assess capability moving forward. And that's a difficult adjustment, but unfortunately, it's going to be an adjustment that we have to make at some point soon.
And Bridget's also added, educators need to be able to incorporate the use of AI in learning activities in a way that is used in their industry. It's an industry currency question, a big learning curve in trying to be at the forefront of industry. So Bridget, I will showcase something at the end of this presentation about our AI and practice webinars, which may touch the iceberg on that, not solve for that, but might help. That's why we introduce them. So I'll help with that in a moment. Can I ask maybe a difficult question? If the current education system has been predicated on the sharing of information, and obviously the apex of the classroom is the one that knows most about that topic and critically shares that with students learning as they go through their course, if in the age of AI, access to information is no longer the issue, how do we kind of help reinvent within the phase of, you know, within the structures of curriculum per se, but the idea of allowing people to use AI, but measuring them in a different way that they understand it and understand how to challenge it, you know, I don't know, I'm not being very articulate, but I'm sure this is a conversation that's been had multiple times with educators. What is the thoughts around the room in relation to now in the new world of AI, what needs to change for us to be better at, building those skills? Might throw to Dylan to start with. And oh, Bianca, you put your hand up. Thanks.
Sorry, this is something I think about all the time.
Okay.
So I think we've been seeing for a while now the changing nature of the role of the educator, even since we started to build a lot more online and a lot more access to knowledge. And I think we've seen curation become more of an important role and a facilitation role. What I'm excited for now, as we have that knowledge piece in everybody's pockets in even a more real way, is seeing what our educators can do with the people skills, the so-called soft skills, which are actually just human skills. And a lot of the time they're the things that have always been pushed out and they don't get time, and because curriculums are jammed. And if I think about, all curriculums are very jammed full of outcomes and competencies and things that need to happen. If we've just been going through a massive restructure with an RTO, and what we're finding is because they have classroom time with their learners as well as online time, we'll be able to do a lot more practical, a lot more engagement, a lot more of that piece around problem solving together and doing that social learning, because social learning has kind of fallen out as well with all of this technology. So I'm hoping that because of that knowledge piece becoming less of the importance, that we're actually going to see all the other cool stuff that actually happens when you have a classroom and an engaging group of young people trying to learn something.
Thanks, Bianca. Stephen, your hand's up as well.
Yes, it's an interesting dilemma, but it's one that most industries have gone through in the past. So when I left school some 50 years ago, I did accounting, law, and IT. And in the law subjects, you had to learn the cases off by heart, because the only way of finding them was to going to a library and going through hundreds of books. 20 years later, or 25 years later, suddenly they were just teaching them how to search for the cases and how to interpret them. And I think that's what we need to do. We work with the Queensland government, and in some of their departments, the training is about how to use the system, but also how to always use the AI. That the people aren't allowed to use their own notes. They're not allowed to use, oh yeah, I did that thing yesterday, so I'll tell them the same thing today. They must use AI. So I think, and it's going to depend on the workplace. I think that's what we need to look at. What are the people doing in the workplace? And say, how are we going to apply that?
Thank you, Stephen. That's good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other comments around the room in relation to barriers to getting started? Anyone here that is in an organisation or in a position themselves where they feel that they're not able to kind of start their exploration of AI transformation or AI adoption in their organisation? Super keen just to understand any last points, because we will need to continue with the slide pack. Okay, maybe we have everyone already doing some stuff. And Lex, I see your question about when you introduce a new tool, do you provide prompt engineering training or playbook? So that is outlined in the BKI playbook, and the links have been provided. So do feel free to download that and have a look at that. Okay, I'm going to bring the presentation back to the next steps. So everyone starts at a white belt was probably my thinking for people that were joining today's call. It sounds like we've got people that have will pass the white belt. You don't have to have it all figured out, that's for sure, before we get started. So for us, building out frameworks for AI adoption for RTOs has been something we've tried to help with and develop. We are facilitating sort of upskilling programs and sector masterclasses, and today almost became a masterclass on BKI, which has been great. We're developing use cases which are available again in the links in the chat. In our AI in Practice webinar series, I know we had a comment earlier in the chat. This is particularly what we've been working on. So at the beginning of the year, these are all links, so please feel free, get busy clicking links here of past AI in Practice webinars from a recording point of view, or of course registering for our upcoming one on leadership with the partnership with the Australian Institute of Management, or our masterclass in the AI Adoption Starter Kit. So anyone who's downloaded that, you might like to click there and register, or Sprint 6, which will be our retrospective of the pilot program for the last 12 months and what's next. And of course, our AI Governance and Adoption Starter Toolkit, which is the main piece of work we've delivered for people getting started. But just for more clarity, the AI the AI in Practice webinars, those focus particularly on a particular domain, targeted at educators or tutors or trainers in these disciplines. They are available on the website, so if you have colleagues back in your organisation that you think will benefit from it, please do share this information with them. And we ask the presenters to talk about the impact of AI in that domain or sector with their skills and workforce, and then ideally to showcase 10 uses of AI in marketing, or 10 uses of AI in finance, for instance. So we've already had 3, so marketing, finance and HR with the Australian Human Resources Institute. Next up is AI in Practice on leadership with AIM, and not yet locked and loaded, but we're talking about AI in Practice technology, further to Dylan's comments today, in partnership with the Australian Computer Society. So hoping to bring that together for you for June. We do keep all of these events as they come off the production line on our website. So if you are new to the Skills Accelerator, please do monitor the website, check out our emails. We're all about doing and communicating and engaging. So hopefully that's been helpful. Before we do finish up for today, would be grateful if you could take a few minutes just to give us feedback on our QR code. As a government organisation, we do report to the government on our streams of work and our initiatives, and we also do like to report meeting feedback. So if you could give us a few moments, that would be great. As I mentioned, my name's Siobhan O'Sullivan. I'm easily reached through the FSO or hit me up on LinkedIn. We will do a blog about today's sprint, which will probably be released in the next sort of 7 days. And join the conversation. We're here to help facilitate and solve for some of these really hard challenges that you are all facing. As we said at the beginning, we know it's not easy. And I'd like to also take the opportunity to thank Dylan Pereira for taking up 90 minutes of your time. I know you're a very busy member of your team, and you speak a lot for different things and explain what you've been doing. So thanks, Dylan, for giving us your insight today. It's been really invaluable.
Siobhan, absolute pleasure. I'll extend the invite for anyone who wants to have a broader or a deeper conversation about anything that we talked about. Again, connect with me through email or on LinkedIn. I'm very happy to have a one-on-one conversation, and if I can help in any way, I'm very happy to do that. So thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, I will leave it there in relation to, we have a thank you slide, but I'd rather get your feedback on a survey slide. So thank you from me and the team at FSO, and have a great afternoon. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you, Siobhan. Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye.
Thanks, Dylan.
Bye.
Bye.